Hello, everybody, and welcome to chapter 58, 59, and 60 of Isaiah, which we are going to do today. All right. So, Isaiah chapter 58. This is a chapter that focuses on the true meaning of worship and the kind of behavior God expects from his people. It challenges the Israelites to go beyond mere rituals and ceremonies they do and to live out their faith in practical ways. So, let's understand in detail chapter 58. So there is some critique of the false worship which people are doing. This chapter starts with God speaking through the prophet Isaiah, calling out the people for their false worship. These people were going through the motions of all the religious rituals like fasting and all the sacrifices, but their hearts were not in it. They were still engaged in unjust behavior and exploiting others. So this section teaches us that God desires sincere worship that goes beyond outward actions and rituals. Similarly, God explains what true fasting looks like. It is not just about refraining from food, but about living in a way that reflects God's values. True fasting involves freeing those who are oppressed, feeding the hungry, helping the poor. This shows that God values the actions that promote justice and compassion over mere ritual observance. When people engage in true fasting and live according to God's commands, they will experience blessings. God promises that their light will shine brightly and they will receive healing and their lives will be guided and protected. This is a promise of how living in alignment with God's will bring spiritual and physical benefits to all of us. God also rebukes those who treat the Sabbath with disdain, using it just another day rather than a day dedicated to rest and spiritual renewal. God emphasizes that keeping the Sabbath holy involves delighting in it and honoring God by not pursuing one's own interest. All right. And this chapter concludes with a call to uphold justice and righteousness. God calls his people to act with integrity, provide for those in need, and work towards creating a just society. Now, this reflects God's desire for his people to live in ways that reflect his character and bring out his justice on earth. Thus, Isaiah chapter 58 is teaching us that God is not pleased with superficial worship that lacks genuine commitment. Okay, he desires worship that is reflected in our actions, particularly in how we treat others and uphold justice. Now we talk about Isaiah chapter 59. 59 is a chapter which has a profound passage that addresses the problems of sin, injustice, and the need for redemption. It highlights the distance sin creates between people and God, and it emphasizes God's commitment to bring justice and salvation to them. So, let's understand the separation caused due to sin. This chapter starts by describing how sin has caused a separation between the people and God. The people are wondering why God is not listening to their prayers or helping them. Well, the answer is that their sins and iniquities have created such a big barrier between them and God, right? Secondly, Isaiah describes the moral and social decay in the society. People are involved in lying, violence, and injustice. They are all living in a way that God does not like. It is opposing God's commandments, and their actions are reflecting corruption and deceit. This part of the chapter highlights how widespread sin affects society and leads to various forms of injustice and wrongdoing. Now, what is God's response to injustice? This chapter says that the people realize their situation and acknowledge also their sins. They see that they have been walking in darkness and they want to seek God's help. God's response is that he will come to bring justice and righteousness. He will act to correct the wrongs and provide salvation. Now, the coming of the Redeemer. Who's going to give us salvation? God says that there is no one to intervene on behalf of the people. So he decides to take action himself. He will come as a Redeemer to save his people. God will wear righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation, symbolizing his commitment to deliver his people from their sins. This is a promise of God's intervention to provide salvation and restore justice. Now, this chapter concludes with the promise of a new covenant between God and his people. God assures that his Spirit will remain with them and his words will be on their lips. and the lips of their descendants. Isn't it beautiful? This symbolizes a lasting relationship between God and his people, marked by his guidance and presence. So Isaiah chapter 59 teaches us about the serious impact of sin on our relationship with God and on society. It also shows how sin can create separation from God, leading to injustice and suffering. However, it also offers hope by revealing God's commitment to bring justice and salvation to us. And God promises to act as a redeemer, to save his people and establish a new covenant with them. What a lovely chapter. Now let's go to Isaiah chapter 60. What is Isaiah chapter 60 talking about? It is a hopeful and inspiring chapter that speaks about the future glory of Jerusalem. Yes, it describes a time when God will shine his light on Jerusalem, transforming it into a place of great beauty and prominence. This chapter emphasizes God's promise of restoration and abundance that will follow. Let's understand. So we talk about the radiant Jerusalem. What is this chapter? It talks about a powerful call to Jerusalem to arise and shine because God's light has come. The darkness that once covered the earth will now be replaced by God's glory. Jerusalem will be a beacon of light to the nations, attracting people from all over the world. This symbolizes a time of great spiritual awakening and prominence to the city. Now, the restoration and abundance. God promises that the people of Jerusalem will return from all the corners of the earth. The city will be filled with wealth and honor as people bring gifts and offerings from various nations. This restoration will be so complete that the former desolation of Jerusalem will be forgotten forever. The city will be rebuilt and will experience peace, prosperity, and security. This emphasizes God's ability to transform and restore what was once lost. The New Jerusalem's role. Now, Jerusalem will be elevated to a position of unparalleled importance. It will be a place of righteousness, justice, and prosperity. Violence and destruction will be replaced by peace and safety. This chapter highlights how God will change the former state of Jerusalem into a city characterized by justice, honor, and well-being. God also promises that the city will no longer need the sun or moon for light because God himself will be its everlasting light. The days of sorrow and suffering will be replaced by joy and fulfillment, and the people will be known for their righteousness. And God will fulfill his promises, bringing everything to fruit in his perfect time. Thus, you see, Isaiah chapter 60 offers a vision of hope and restoration for Jerusalem. It also describes a future where God's light will shine brightly over the city, transforming it from a place of desolation to one of splendor and abundance. This chapter teaches us about God's power to restore and uplift anything. So with this, we complete chapters 58 to 60 of Isaiah. Please read the Bible and revise your knowledge by attempting the MCQ questions given in the link below. All the best.